Hello everyone, Moro here. As I have mentioned before, most of my thumbnail art here on my YouTube channel contains hand-drawn art made by me. It does create more work for myself, but I think it enhances my personal branding and challenges myself to both improve my drawing skills and draw faster. In this video, I will show you the process behind drawing the thumbnail art for my latest craft video where I created a posable doll of the character Orostor from the anime Gachiakuta. Why do I do traditional art most of the time over digital art? Well, I've done both over the course of my lifetime in being an artist, and over the years people have told me that they like my traditional art style over my digital one. They've told me that it's always felt more unique. I suppose they are referring to how it's more popular to work with digital mediums these days rather than traditional ones. Traditional art also has this real human and tangible feel to it that naturally comes with working with real-world mediums. Not saying that it's superior to digital art, because there are things you can accomplish with digital art that you cannot accomplish with traditional art. Both have their advantages and disadvantages. Oftentimes, I will modify my traditional art slightly in a photo editing program like Photoshop to either brighten colors slightly because my camera sucks, or I made an irreversible mistake in my art, like a random line over a character's face that I have to remove, and I need to edit it out. So while my art, I'd say, is over 90% traditional, I usually modify it slightly in its final stages digitally. Now, specifically referring back to my Gachiakuta art here, one of the most iconic pieces of official art that features Orostor is the cover of Volume 12 of the manga. Kei Arana, the author and artist of Gachiakuta, I find is really good at creating dynamic poses and expressions. I think that is the part that I admire most about Urana's work. Fu's pose here is so dynamic and interesting, despite him simply sitting. It's very iconic, so that's why I'll be essentially copying the whole thing but plastering my face on it. But don't worry, I'm not going to be tracing it. I'm going to be building it from the ground up. I know every artist does it differently, and there's probably a more correct way of doing it, but when I reference an image that I want to copy very closely, I break it down into shapes. So here I see an oval shape for the head, scarf, and neck, and an almost trapezoidal shape for the main part of the body, 2 triangles for the upper parts of the legs, and 2 triangles for the baggy arm sleeves. Then I start going in and mapping out the skeletal framework of the figure. I am pretty much a self-taught artist with no academic knowledge of art outside of high school, minus one short college course that was shoved into my college graphic design program, so my art is far from perfect. I just go along with what I personally observed in the art world. Now that the body's been mapped out, time to add on the clothing, continuously referencing the official piece of the art that I am trying to copy. Moving on to the face, Fu's almost got that same angle to his head that famous Firen drawing has. Lucky for me, I don't have to think too hard about how to draw that complex angle because I already have a reference that's done it for me. If you are ever attempting a character's pose that is above your skill level, please find and look very carefully at a reference photo. Now here's the part where I draw my yarn hair instead of Fu's hair. Most of the time, when I do the art for one of my YouTube thumbnails, I draw myself over another character. In this case, my VTuber self over Fu in his iconic Volume 12 pose. In addition to plopping my face over Orostor Fu's face, I am adding my angel wings to the back. Think of this drawing as me cosplaying Orostor Fu, basically. probably one of my favorite parts of sketching out the drawing, all of the little details. One major change I am making to this drawing in comparison to the original is changing the placement of he, Pooh's vital instrument, this raccoon-like doll. Since this drawing is to act as a thumbnail to my video about making a doll of Pooh and he, I want this version of the drawing to be showing off my creation that is featured in said video, the doll I made of Orostor Pooh. I think it's a very clever placement and use of this iconic drawing of Pooh. I still wanted to include he in this drawing, so I had it looking up at where the doll was going to later be. Now is time for the line work, or the outlines. I use a variety of thicknesses of black micron pens. They are waterproof, so they are perfect for my usual watercolor style that I do. I usually go over the drawing once with about a medium thickness of pen, or a smaller thickness if the detail that I am going over is small. Then I revisit some areas of the art and add some line weight. Line weight is basically making some areas of the line work thicker while keeping others thinner. Everyone has their own way of adding line weight to their art. I like to add thicker lines to the areas opposite to the sides of the shape of where the light is hitting the figure, enhancing its 3D look a little bit. Some people don't add variations in the line weight, some people do. Some people outline the entire outer shape of the figure as their style. Others do other methods, depending on what you're going for. A lot of artists erase the sketch layer after doing the line art layer, but I tend to leave most of it. I might go and erase some of the pencil sketch areas here and there, so that it's not visible in the final piece, especially in the lighter color areas like on the skin or pieces of wet clothing. I usually also like to erase a lot of the pencil from the face area. To me, the face is one of the most important areas of a character art piece. In most other areas, I leave the pencil sketch layer of art. I personally find that it enhances the rough and more human feel to the art. It also adds to the interesting variations of weight to the line art. A lot of the pencil work also fades a little when I apply the watercolor later, so it becomes less noticeable later anyways. Now, time for the watercolor layer! I've been using this particular set of watercolor paint for more than 15 years at this point. I actually won it in an art contest. I think I got in the top 3 or something like that. It was so long ago, I don't really remember all the details. This kit came with a shorter watercolor brush pen, but it eventually wore out, so I had to buy a new pen. I prefer this watercolor brush pen over a traditional brush because it's so conveniently portable. You just unscrew the brush part and fill the back part with water. Screw it back together and squeeze it to dispense water into the brush tip. There you go, the brush is wet and you can dab the paint pans and apply it to your artwork. When I apply the watercolor layer to my artwork, I don't focus too much on shading just yet. I mostly focus on just applying the color. However, I will try to apply the darker and more concentrated levels of paint to areas of where the shadows may be. I try my best to match the colors of the official references I have. Oftentimes, this comes with mixing colors. For some reason, in this kit, there is no purple paint. Unfortunate for this scenario since Fu's outfit has a lot of purple in it. I also struggle with particularly mixing a very vibrant purple in this watercolor kit. I'm not sure why the red and blues don't mix very good in this kit, the two colors required to make purple. No worries, I try my best, and if I need to, I just enhance the purples later in Photoshop after taking a picture of my finished work. Now, time for the shading. My personal preference when it comes to shading is to shade with the color of the light source and then go back later and shade on top of those areas with its complementary color. Some artists use this method, others do other things, but this is the method that I use as a part of my style. As you can see here, I am using a darker shade of orange, which is the color of my light source. Lucky for me, the areas of shadow have already been mapped out by my reference. Otherwise, you have to figure it out in your head where the shadows would naturally appear, which I normally do, but luckily I don't have to think too hard about it in this scenario. After that's done, I move on to my second layer of shading. Using a watercolor pencil crayon of the complementary color of orange, aka blue, I once again go over the areas I just shaded in. Sometimes I use regular pencil crayons for this step, whichever is most convenient at the time. It's important to note that I don't go in immediately pressing hard onto the paper with the watercolor pencil crayon. I steadily build up the color in each shaded area. Immediately going in hard will make these areas really blue, which I don't want to do in every shaded area. Mixing complementary colors produces a sort of gray hue, perfect for shadows. However, some areas bleeding into the light, I want to leave some of the orange shade showing. And in some areas bleeding into the darker sides of the shadows, I want to press a bit harder and lean a little more into the blues. Now that the traditional art version of the drawing is done, I take a picture of it and bring it into a photo editing program. In this case, Photoshop. Now, I didn't record this step, but there isn't a whole lot that I did to it. So I will just show you my Photoshop layers and explain it from there. Bringing the photo of my art into Photoshop, it's time to remove the character from the background. All I did to do that was to use the object selection tool, make a layer mask out of it, and then go in with a black and white brush to fix up the edges of the cutout. I usually add a bright color background for contrast to better see what I am doing during the step. To roughly mimic the look of the background of Gachiakuta's manga covers, I put in a black background and a strip of white down the middle on top. I know there's a lot of symbols and patterns and letterings in the background on top of that, but I didn't want to bother copying it. I didn't think I needed all of that detail for a small thumbnail. And just for fun, I plopped the Gachiakuta logo in there. Here's what my drawing looks like after I cut it out from the background. As I mentioned earlier, the photos that I take of my work are often dull and need to be brightened, resaturated, etc. I experiment with various adjustment layers to achieve this, such as with curves, hue/saturation, and level layers. I also felt the need to add a bit more depth to the piece, so I duplicated the cutout drawing layer with all of its adjustment layers in case I wanted to go back to an unedited version of the layer. And in this duplicated layer, I went over the drawing with the burn tool and gently applied shadows to the piece. I then added this white glow with a soft white brush and pasted a picture of the finished Foo doll on top of it. Now, this is the full version of the artwork. It's obviously not the correct dimensions to be a YouTube thumbnail just quite yet. The dimensions for a YouTube thumbnail is 1280 pixels by 720 pixels. So when I crop my art, I set those numbers as my aspect ratio. Now, I did change up the background when I turned my art into a thumbnail. I inversed the black and white colors in the background and tilted the rectangular shape to flow more with the movement of the piece. And that's how I drew myself as Foo from Gachiakuta. Now you know the kind of work that goes on behind my hand-drawn thumbnails, and how I generally do all of my traditional art. If you are an artist, I am curious to learn how you do your art. Are you a traditional artist or a digital artist? What are your favorite mediums and/or programs to work with? Is there a new medium or program that you wish to try out and learn in the future? Please let me know in the comments below. For now, see you tomorrow, whenever that might be. Bye-bye!